welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Yeshi. Here are the headlines. Pakistan's Balochistan province witnesses resistance by Baloch fighters. Afghan refugee shares sacred story in acclaimed animated film Flea. And devotees in India and Nepal celebrate Basant Panchami with religious fervour. Let's begin the show with Pakistan's Balochistan province, which has witnessed a drastic increase in attacks against the Pakistani security forces, with Baloch rebels having caused heavy casualties to the state forces in different operations. The resistance has turned more destructive since China has entered into Balochistan to invest in the Belt and Road Initiative. Let's find out more on this report.
The Baloch have been resisting against Islamabad for decades now. Baloch fighters who have been demanding sovereignty are usually involved in scattered target killings, small ambush and roadside bombings. But recently they carried out skilled attacks on military camps on Panjgur and Noshki Frontier Corps camps and meted out heavy casualties to the security forces. On January 25 and 26, at least 10 Pakistani soldiers were killed by Baloch Liberation Front in a guerrilla attack. The intensity of these attacks can be guessed from the fact that Pakistan Army has reportedly had to press helicopter gunships and armored personal carriers into operations against the Baloch fighters.
रात देर गए दहशतगर्दों ने नोशकी और पंजौर में एक बड़ा हमला किया जिसे हमारी अजीम अफवाज ने नाकाम बना दिया और नोशकी में 9 दहशतगर्द मारे गए और 4 पाक फौज के अजीम जवान भी शहीद हुए और पंजौर में 6 दहशतगर्द मारे गए.
Balochistan is a resource-rich region facing poverty, dismal growth rate and bad governance. It is all result of Islamabad's discriminatory policies against the region. The arrival of China in Balochistan for the construction of a port at Gwadar has further fueled the resistance. Under terms of port's construction, China will receive 90% of revenues generated there for 40 years. Locals are now completely disillusioned with the promise of development. An opportunity for Baloch insurgent groups to win back popular support for their war has increased.
That the state has, as per strategic design, is eliminating the people to get the land, to get the resources, and making, some agreements against the will of the people, without the will of the people, without inclusion of those people to third parties like third countries like China for extracting the resources, for making mega projects in the name of CPEC and giving contracts of Sendak and Rekodik to China against the inclusion, against the will and against the inclusion, without the inclusion of the Baloch people. And this is a sign of colonization.
Balochistan also has poor human rights record as locals blame Pakistani security forces for enforced disappearances, tortures and killings of Baloch political activists and intellectuals. In recent years, violence has escalated in the province because of the new wave of insurgency which aims only for freedom. The Pakistan military establishment is trying to deal with it through a heavy hand. But this struggle seems to have spread deeper into Baloch society than ever before and is fueling resistance.
Moving on to Afghanistan, where a Danish animated documentary Flea, which has been on center plate by making history with its 3 Oscar nominations, is one of those movies everyone is talking about. This highly acclaimed animated flick revolves around the story of a young gay Afghan refugee fleeing his war-torn country. Let's take a look.
An animated feature film named Flea, directed by Danish filmmaker Jonas Poher Rasmussen, tells the story of an Afghan refugee who shares his hidden past for the first time of fleeing his country. Jonas said the motivation behind his film was to remind people about life's true story and to depict the past coming alive. The film has told the story of Jonas' refugee's friend escaped from Afghanistan, whom he met when he was 15 years old. The film mixes animation with rare historic archive footage of Afghanistan in the 80s as the Afghan teenager Saddam Amin Nawabi recalls reliving past trauma and recounts his escape.
I met him when I was 15, where he arrived to my hometown, and he was 16, and he came all by himself from Afghanistan. And I grew up in this very small rural Danish village. So I was kind of, from the very beginning, I was curious about, why did he come and how? But he didn't want to talk about it. And I, of course, respected that. But, our friendship grew, and this story was kind of this kind of black box in our friendship, that there's this thing he didn't really want to touch on.
Flea premiered to great acclaim at Sundance a year ago, winning the festival's Grand Jury Prize and went on to pick several awards over 2021. Rasmussen said that he initially set out to tell the story about friendship and secrets. However, his perspective changed after 2015 migrant crisis erupted in Europe a year. Amid the film's victorious launch, Afghanistan once again made the headlines last year as the Taliban took control of the countries and thousands of civilians thronged Kabul airport seeking to escape, making the film sadly relevant all of the sudden.
The film really was born out of me being curious about my friend. I didn't think I want to do a refugee story and then, went out and found a refugee. This was really about friendship just as much as about refugees, and about having secrets. And then, of course, when the refugee crisis hit, I think we were like a year or two into the process of making the film. My perspective kind of changed, and I kind of felt a need to give, the refugees we saw on the highways in Denmark and the rest of Europe a human face.
Rasmussen also said that opening up about his past and sharing his secret has brought Amin peace, and even the positive feedback has further helped his friend. The film Flea was nominated for 2 BAFTA awards last week and has been shortlisted in documentary feature and international feature film categories at the 2022 Oscars, while also being eligible for an animated feature nod.
Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in a segment called Asia Watch.
Hundreds of trucks drove down a main street in Bangkok to protest against high diesel prices. The convoy headed towards Thailand's energy ministry as part of an attempt to pressure the government to cap the price of diesel at 25 baht per litre and demand the resignation of country's energy minister. A spokesperson for the Energy Ministry told that the government could not meet the demands of the truck drivers, stating that the government had already pegged diesel prices at 30 baht since October 2021, despite rising global prices. South Korea's antitrust regulator said that it decided to fine German car maker Mercedes-Benz and its Korean unit 20.2 billion won for false advertising tied to gas emissions of its diesel passenger vehicles. The Korea Fair Trade Commission said Mercedes had tampered with pollution mitigation devices by installing illegal software in its vehicle, making them perform at lower levels in ordinary driving conditions than during certification test. A test of 15 Mercedes models had such software installed. The German car maker also falsely advertised that their vehicles' emission remained at a minimum level and met the Euro 6 emission standards between August 2013 and December 2016. Mercedes was not immediately available for comment outside business hours when contacted. Last year, the KFTC imposed a fine or order corrective actions for Audi, Volkswagen, Korea, Nissan Motor Corp, Stainless Korea and Porsche AG for similar emissions rigging incidents. Tokyo Metropolitan Government is holding a demonstration experiment of E-Ride Tokyo with an aim to popularize electric bikes. EV bikes are electronic bikes that are very quiet and do not emit fume. Users can change the battery for free. Tokyo Metropolitan Government is promoting zero emission project. It aims to decrease CO2 emission to zero by 2050. To realize it, EV bikes play important role.
東京都は2050年には CO2 を排出しない環境先進都市ゼロエミッション東京を実現することを目指し取り組みを進めております。2030年までに都内の温室効果ガスを 50% 削減するカーボンハーフを掲げ、新車販売される二輪車を2035年までに 100% 非ガソリン化する取り組みです。
EV bike users use a special application on their phones to find a battery replacement box. The map shows the battery replacement boxes. It also has navigation functions. The rider reads the QR code on the replacement box, opens the door, replaces it with a newly charged battery, and stores the discharged battery in a box to recharge it.
携帯のアプリで交換してみたんですけど、最初からすんなりと交換することはできましたので、初めての方でも心配なく交換することは容易だと思います。
E-Bike Tokyo demonstration experiments include convenience stores and gas station companies. Convenience stores are located in downtown and residential area, so they find it easy to replace battery. After successfully organizing the Olympic Games, Tokyo is seen as the most progressed city in the world. The city's response to zero emission is appreciated by many countries and leaders around the world. Japanese electronic manufacturer giant Panasonic has announced to take steps regarding environment conservation in the future at the world's largest consumer electronic exhibition, CES 2022. During the coronavirus pandemic, Panasonic introduced its latest products via video and online conferencing instead of displaying them physically. In a video message, the company's CEO explains about the commitment Green Impact.
When I see the activities of the Panasonic Group, I see the need to fulfill a tremendous responsibility. We will reduce this by developing new technologies and solutions to increase their efficiency.
Panasonic Green Impact is a concept of Panasonic Group's environmental initiatives, and it mainly focuses on our challenges against climate change. So it focuses on reducing CO2, not just of our own emissions, but reducing CO2 of society. And by 2030, first of all, we are committed to achieve net zero emission by all our operating companies. But at the same time, we will be expanding our solutions to help our B2B and B2G customers reduce their CO2 emission as well. Panasonic Group has a lot of business fields, very diverse business fields, and there are many approaches that we can make green impact to society. Technologies to create, for example, clean energy that we can use to reduce our own CO2 emission can be applied to reducing CO2 of others, obviously. And by providing more technologies that help create renewable energy and use renewable energy more efficiently.
The customer base of Panasonic is spread all over the world, and the company is very well aware about the responsibility that it holds towards the society.
Women in Jammu and Kashmir are on the path to financial independence, all thanks to the government schemes that not just aims to make women self-reliant by investing in their livelihoods, but also to unleash the potential and empower them. Using them, a few women's self-help groups in Jammu city have joined together to establish a farmer-producer organization engaged in dairy activities.
In the recent years, several women entrepreneurs have emerged in Jammu and Kashmir. While many are busy carrying forward their family's business, others have set up their own enterprises and are generating more employment avenues. And this is not just the case in the urban region of Jammu and Kashmir. In rural region too, women have shown an appetite for entrepreneurship. With the help of government schemes, they have turned over a new leaf and are just slaying in business. An example of it can be witnessed in Gajansu village of Jammu, where a group of women belonging to around 12 self-help groups are successfully running a FPO or Farmer Producer Organization engaged in dairy activities. FPO is a legal entity formed by primary producers like farmers, milk producers, fishermen, weavers, rural artisans, or craftsmen. Ranging from milk to various milk products like cottage cheese, kalari, which is famous local cheese produced in Jammu, milk cake and curd, they supply a number of items across the region. Today, this FPO is not just enabling women in the area to receive a good price for their milk, but is also contributing towards preventing spoilage of milk.
हम 10 लेडीज़ थी जो सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप से जुड़ी थी और उसके साथ हमारा एक बीओ बना इधर उधर कम से कम 12 सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप थे 100-150 लेडी जुड़ी हुई थी तो इधर सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप वालों ने हमें ट्रेनिंग कराई मिल्क प्रोडक्ट की ICIC फाउंडेशन की मदद से तो फिर उन्होंने हमें मार्केट में जोड़ा फिर उसके हमने सभी ग्रुप को जो सेल्फ हेल्प छोटे छोटे सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप थे उनकी एक FPO तैयार कर दी और उस FPO में हमारे पास अब 200-250 मेंबर है फिर हमने इधर एक कलेक्शन सेंटर बनाया और यहाँ पे अब हम सभी लेडीज़ हैं जो इधर दूध देने आती हैं हमें तो उनका एक तो किराया बच गया जो शहर जाते थे दूसरा कई बार दूध ख़राब भी हो जाता था गर्मियों में लेकिन अब वो जल्दी इधर सब दूध दे जाती हैं तो उनको पैसा भी मिलता है दूसरा हम इधर क्वालिटी का दूध लेते हैं शहर से पैसा भी ज़्यादा देते हैं किराया भी बचता है उन लोगों का टाइम भी बचता है
To run their FPO, these women have availed a number of subsidies under the various schemes of Animal and Sheep Husbandry Department. Using them, they have purchased a milk ATM van and various other machines like milk quality monitor and a cheese maker. Like these women from Gajansu village, there are many more from other areas of the territory who are coming forward and opening such FPOs. The department is also fully supporting them by providing them all the machinery on 50% subsidy.
ये FPO में काफ़ी जो है खासकर बॉर्डर बेल्ट के लोग जो हैं जिसमें खासकर हमारी महिलाएं माएँ बहनें जो हैं वो ज़्यादा जुड़ रही हैं जैसे हमने मड साइड में इसी तरह से एक आधा यूनिट जो है वो इस वक्त ऑलरेडी प्रोसेसिंग में है काम कर रहा है वो वहाँ पे ऐसे ही हमें अर्निया सेक्टर्स में ऐसे ही हमारा यहाँ पे RS-पुरा के बॉर्डर लाइन सेक्टर्स में भी कुछ FPO जो हैं काम करने जा रही हैं एक ये त्रेवा में है अर्निया बॉर्डर लाइन पे है तो इसी तरह से बहुत सारे एरियाज में ये लेडीज जो हैं अब आगे आ रही हैं तो उसमें क्या काम किया जाता है कि दूध जो है मिल्क कलेक्शन सेंटर्स कहीं पे भी वो एक पॉइंट्स पे भी बना सकते हैं या फिर उसके अलावा भी कई कलेक्शन सेंटर्स पे रखे जा सकते हैं और फिर उन कलेक्शन सेंटर्स पे एक ही पॉइंट पे उनको डिफरेंट सारे सब्सिडी बेस्ड हमारी सारी चीज़ें उनको मिल सकती हैं जैसे खोया मेकिंग मशीन्स वो रख सकते हैं मिल्क के लिए आपको उसको कलाड़ी बनाने के लिए उसको मशीन्स चाहिए तो वो हम उनको मैसर करते हैं सारों में 50% सब्सिडीज पे
As women are said to be the building blocks of the society, their empowerment at the grassroots will not just create a positive impact but also give boost to rural economy.
Moving on, there are a number of festivals celebrated jointly in India and Nepal. Basant Panchami is one such festival that paints everyone in the color of spring. It is an auspicious occasion and is dedicated to Saraswati, the Hindu goddess of knowledge and wisdom. Have a look.
People in India got soaked in the festive spirit of joy as they celebrated the festival of Basant Panchami. It marks the onset of the spring season in the country. The festival is dedicated to Saraswati, the Hindu goddess which symbolizes energy and power in all its forms, including longing, love, and knowledge. On this auspicious festival, people wake up early in the morning, wear white, red, or yellow clothes. A variety of sweets flavored with saffron are prepared and donated to the needy. According to the Hindu beliefs, goddess Saraswati was born on this day, and therefore many students keep fast until they make offerings of flowers to the goddess. Devotees also take a holy dip in the river to mark the festival.
महत्वपूर्ण है, प्रयाग में महत्वपूर्ण माना जाता है बसंत पंचमी, इसलिए सब लोग यहाँ स्नान करने आते हैं, नहाते धोते हैं, पूजा पाठ करते हैं।
India's neighboring Nepal too soaked in the festivities of Basant Panchami with great fervour and gusto. Students in the Himalayan nation celebrated the festival as they climbed up the temple located on the hilltop of Swayambhunath, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in capital Kathmandu.
भगवानको पूजा गर्नलाई उहाँ नै त्यो एजुकेसनको देवता हो, शिक्षाको देवता, उहाँले नै शिक्षा दिनुहुन्छ, गुण दिनुहुन्छ, राम्रो कुरा सिकाउनुहुन्छ, त्यही भएर उहाँको पूजा गर्नु जरुरी छ वर्षमा एकचोटी।
The day of Basant Panchami is considered an auspicious day to mark a fresh start to know the alphabet. Many of the parents brought their children to the temple to introduce them to alphabets by writing on the walls and edges of the temple, marking it as their start to the academic field.
यो किनभने हाम्रो यो परम्परादेखि नै चलिआइरहेको हैन, जुन सरस्वती माता हाम्रो चाहिँ अब उहाँ चाहिँ अब ज्ञानको मन्दिर हुनुहुन्छ, त्यही भएर हामी चाहिँ यो मन्दिरमा आएर सानो बच्चाहरूलाई लेखाउने पढाउने गर्छौं, किनकि भन्दाखेरि यो बच्चाले केही सिक्छ भनेर ज्ञानको कुराहरू, त्यही भएर नै हामी आउँछौं।
Hindu goddess Saraswati is depicted as seated on a lotus, riding a swan, holding a veena in her hands. Basant Panchami holds immense importance for students and artists, and special prayers are held in schools and colleges on this day.
It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We will be back next week at the same time. This is Yeshi signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.